Hey, brokies! Today, we're taking extreme inspiration from the infamous Somali Daycare method to make an absolute mountain of cash. Welcome to the ultimate financial glitch tutorial. To actually pull off this legendary exploit in the modern financial matrix, you must start with the absolute most boring part of any criminal enterprise, which is the paperwork. Now, this specific stage is exactly where the true speedrunners separate themselves from casual players. First, you have to register a business, and lucky for you, the government makes setting up a limited liability company incredibly easy because they desperately want to encourage entrepreneurship within the local community. And all you have to do is simply log onto the ancient state website, navigate a user interface that looks like a high school coding project from the late 90s, and pay a tidy fee to officially become the chief executive officer of a brand new childcare empire. And guess what? You absolutely do not need a fancy degree in early childhood development to accomplish this task. The state is basically just looking for a heartbeat and a clean enough background check to satisfy the bare minimum legal requirements. In the meantime, you must pick a physical location for your newly minted business. This exact moment is where the commercial real estate magic truly happens. You want to find the absolute least expensive commercial space available on the open market. Consequently, you end up scouting out extremely depressing suburban strip malls or perhaps a defunct mattress store gathering dust since the turn of the millennium. Interestingly enough, the state requires a specific square footage per child. Therefore, you must rent a massive empty room and throw down some cheap, brightly colored rugs to make the space look like a place where human children might actually want to spend their time. Once you secure your slightly depressing strip mall location, you must tackle the absolute mountain of state licensing paperwork to get the ball rolling. The golden ticket here is getting approved for the Child Care Assistance Program. Finishing these forms represents the tutorial level of the video game. You have to submit floor plans and basic safety protocols. Now, the approval process closely resembles getting a permission slip signed by an exhausted substitute teacher who just wants to go home and binge-watch television shows until they all fall asleep. Oh, and you also need to set up a corporate bank account to receive those sweet government direct deposits. Commercial banks absolutely love small businesses, so they welcome you with open arms and zero suspicion. All done? Excellent. You're now holding the keys to a fully licensed, state-approved facility legally authorized to bill the government for watching kids. Alright, now that your supposed learning dungeon is completely ready, you actually need some children to justify those massive invoices that you're about to hurl right at the government's face. But here's the absolute best part of this financial speedrun. Finding real toddlers is actually a total side quest. In this specific strategy, paper children are the real MVP. The government pays the exact same daily rate for a spreadsheet entry as they do for screaming crotch fruits. Paper kids are genuinely fantastic. Not only are they quiet, they lack sticky hands, they never cry, and they are incredibly simple to store inside a metal filing cabinet when you finish your daily tasks. Can't be doing that with real babies. Now it's time for your brand new favorite hobby. You get to assemble a fantasy football league of invisible children to fill up your entirely empty building. You'll quickly find that naming every single fake kid not a scam smith makes the government auditor's eyebrows twitch. Apparently, those desk jockeys actually expect people to physically exist in the real world. To avoid the heat, you pivot to borrowing the identities of the actual kids living down the street. It acts exactly like a public library, but instead of checking out books, you're checking out human beings for extreme financial gain. The parents don't mind at all because you're sliding them a small cut of the loot to keep their mouths completely shut. It's truly amazing how fast parental instinct completely vanishes when a crisp $50 bill sits firmly on the kitchen table. Now, if you want your little empire to last, you must start collaborating with actual parents. Think of it as a quid pro quo arrangement. You approach some hardworking families and offer them a business deal so simple that even a toddler can understand the terms. However, for obvious legal reasons, please do not let the toddlers sign the binding contract. You slide them a few $100 in cold hard cash every single month as a hush money stipend, and in exchange, they let you use their kid's name to enroll them in your state-funded program. The absolute beauty of the system is that the kid never actually has to set foot inside your building. They stay safely at home, probably becoming a professional iPad kid, while you sit back at the office aggressively billing the government for every single second that child is awake. You're basically charging the state for maximum hours like a high-end lawyer dealing with a massive gambling debt. Moving along to the next phase of the operation, you quickly realize that an empire of imaginary children requires a completely imaginary staff to maintain the grand illusion. After all, the state requires a specific ratio of teachers to students, and if you claim to be watching 100 paper toddlers, you absolutely need an army of paper employees to babysit them. This is where you transform into the ultimate human resources wizard. You start flipping through your family tree, picking out relatives who live in entirely different time zones to serve as your highly qualified early childhood educators. You officially hire your elderly grandmother, your cousin who currently lives in a van, and your pet dog wearing a trench coat, and create elaborate employee files for all of them, complete with perfectly forged CPR certification cards and fake training certificates. Just to be on the safe side, the government requires background checks for these staff members, so use clean records of your distant relatives who have absolutely no idea they're currently employed as senior diaper change specialists at your massive facility. Every 2 weeks, you write out official payroll checks to these phantom employees. The best part is, you control all the bank accounts, so you just immediately transfer the payroll funds right back into your own personal pocket. At this point, you're essentially paying yourself to pretend to employ people who are pretending to watch children who don't exist. Also, don't forget to create employee performance reviews to leave a pristine paper trail for the state inspectors. You write glowing evaluations praising your imaginary staff for their incredible dedication to invisible youth. State bureaucrats read these fake performance reviews and beam with absolute pride, completely unaware that they're funding a massive live-action role-playing game. As a direct result of your flawless paperwork, the magical payout pipeline begins to activate exactly like a broken slot machine stuck on the jackpot setting. You submit your completely fabricated attendance records to the State Department of Human Services. They process this information through their ancient computer systems. The government operates the Child Care Assistance Program specifically designed to bypass the parents entirely and send cash straight to your business. Interestingly enough, the state calculates your payout based on the specific age of the children you claim to be watching. So now you have to get a bunch of babies because you just realized that infants command the absolute maximum subsidy rates because they supposedly require a highly intensive level of care. Additionally, the payout pipeline gets absolutely incredibly lucrative when you factor in the various state and federal grant programs designed to help struggling childcare providers. I mean, the government agencies frequently distribute massive stabilization grants based entirely on your reported enrollment capacity. And the best part is that the state rarely audits how these specific grant funds are spent as long as you keep submitting your regular attendance logs on time. We are in an infinite money glitch now, and the financial reporting required by the state is shockingly minimal and incredibly easy to manipulate. We're talking about submitting a poorly scanned, coffee-stained PDF from 2014 and having it rubber-stamped by a bored state clerk who just wants to go on their lunch break. All you have to do is hire a highly questionable accountant who knows exactly how to make your massive unearned profits look like standard business revenue on your tax returns. I mean, lawyers are already morally corrupt, so it shouldn't be hard finding one that wants to commit tax fraud with you. Better yet, find a guy who's somehow both a legal financial consultant operating out of a strip mall chiropractor's office who refers to embezzlement as aggressive corporate restructuring. You could even write off the rent for your empty commercial spaces as a necessary business expense to reduce your overall tax burden. But why stop at rent? Those 500 imaginary toddlers need educational materials, which means your premium streaming subscriptions, your new PS5, and your country club membership are now vital pedagogical tools. Meaning the government is literally paying you massive subsidies while simultaneously allowing you to deduct the cost of the empty rooms and fake supplies you use to steal those exact subsidies. It is the ultimate double dip. You're essentially getting a federal tax break on the overhead costs of your own heist. Now, at any point you start to have guilt or feel bad for scamming people, just remember, there are no kids being harmed. Plus, a bunch of people get extra cash every month. Isn't that awesome? I mean, the government screws us over just as much, if not more. All you're doing is giving them a taste of their medicine. Without their knowing, of course, because otherwise you'll be in jail and there is no lobster and caviar in jail. Just a lot of cornbread and a big dude named Jesse who likes to be called Jessica at night. Once you begin to understand the true macroeconomic impact of your entirely fake business venture, you realize that you aren't just a fraudster, you're a pillar of the community. The state government proudly publishes annual reports highlighting the massive amount of money they're investing in early childhood development. Politicians give passionate, tear-jerking speeches about funding the youth and building a brighter tomorrow, while pointing directly to the massive payout figures generated by your empty strip mall units. You're actually helping these politicians look incredibly successful. Your massive billing volume makes the state programs appear fully utilized and incredibly robust. Thanks to your phantom toddlers, the country's childcare access metrics are off the charts. You are a statistical hero. Everyone involved in the system is completely happy. Politicians get their talking points for the next election cycle. State bureaucrats get to justify their department's budget increases. And you get a driveway full of imported luxury vehicles. The entire house of cards remains perfectly stable as long as nobody ever decides to look through the front window of your business to see the complete absence of human life. Just slap up some frosted glass, a few faded window clings of smiling cartoon monkeys, and a permanent pardon our dust expanding for the children's sign, and your macroeconomic miracle will run far longer. When you finally drive past one of these magical state-funded establishments, you might expect to hear the joyful sounds of children playing and learning. However, you will actually experience a level of absolute silence rivaling a public library at midnight, or perhaps the audience at a Jared Leto concert. The non-existence of actual human children inside these fully operational daycares is the absolute crown jewel of this entire financial speedrun. Investigators in real-life childcare fraud cases up in Minnesota literally staked out these centers for days on end. They discovered facilities billing the government for hundreds of kids while only a couple of random toddlers occasionally wandered through the front doors. Running a business with absolutely zero customers is the ultimate dream for any socially anxious entrepreneur. You never have to deal with crying babies or angry parents complaining about missing juice boxes. Your primary daily operational task simply involves making sure nobody accidentally walks into your completely empty building and catch you doing, I don't know, man, just don't do anything gross. The paperwork you submit to the state paints a breathtaking picture of a thriving educational utopia. Plus, you log attendance records for invisible children who apparently never get sick and never take a single day off. If you are worried someone will come unannounced, don't worry, because these state inspectors rarely show up unannounced, and even when they do schedule a visit, you can easily borrow a few neighborhood kids to temporarily fill the void. Of course, maintaining this illusion requires occasional moments of extreme panic. Let's imagine the state inspector actually decides to conduct a surprise audit. I said it's rare, not impossible. You receive a phone call stating a government official will arrive at your facility in exactly 30 minutes. This initiates the absolute funniest fire drill in human history, and you frantically start calling every single bride parent in the neighborhood, begging them to drop off their kids immediately. At this stage, you'll even offer double the usual hush money just to get the kids in the building. You speed to the local grocery store and buy 30 boxes of animal crackers, ripping them open and scattering crumbs all over the floor to simulate human activity. Turn on the television and blast an episode of Cocomelon. And, this is completely optional, maybe a few dirty diapers in the bins. How they get dirty, that's for you and your nervous stomach to decide. You can even spray cheap industrial air freshener, masking the scent of the absolute nothingness usually occupying the room. The inspector will do his usual shit, look around and pretend like he gives a damn, and he may even write on his dumb clipboard to scare you, but just act natural. Once he leaves, pack it all up and save it for the next surprise visit. This brings us to the absolute best part of the entire operation, which is the infinite repeat loop. Once you successfully get paid for a completely empty room full of imaginary toddlers, you quickly realize that you've discovered a real-life video game cheat code. All you gotta do now is copy and paste your previous attendance sheets and send them right back to the state government month after month. Lucky for us, the state operates on a deeply flawed trust-based billing system where nobody actually comes down to physically count the small humans. You just keep reporting these massive numbers and the government keeps sending you massive checks with the extreme reliability of a ticking Swiss watch. You might start feeling a little bit ambitious. I mean, why wouldn't you? Greed is a fundamental human trait, always demanding more. So now it's time to act on this greed. You will expand your invisible empire by simply renting another completely empty commercial space across town and register a brand new batch of phantom children using the exact same paperwork strategy. The local regulators are buried in massive bureaucratic red tape. They just stamp your new application with a giant smile and whoosh. Your monthly revenue completely doubles overnight. Congratulations, you're now super rich without actually doing the work. Your official job is criminal, but on paper, you're literally just clicking a submit button on a state government portal once every 2 weeks while watching daytime television.